You know, you and I were talking earlier, and why is it if an Ethernet cord is just like, or fiber optic cord, it's just pulsing light through it, why are cords still faster than Wi-Fi? Because Wi-Fi is essentially using radio signal.
Yeah.
Why use radio signal when you can use light? That's why fiber optics are still going to be faster, because we're not using light. You know what I mean? Stupid.
Yeah. Why I think Star Wars had lightsabers.
It was so cool.
There was a reason for that.
You know,
There's a reason why the light pierces the darkness so hard.
Yeah. There's just more light.
Yeah.
Just blasting through it.
Yeah. I mean, but you don't understand light until you understand darkness. You don't understand darkness until you understand light. That's thus the yin and the yang and all that.
You have to understand both. So to all of our listeners here in Albuquerque.
Or
the Santa Fe area.
New Mexico.
Welcome to the spiritual teachings of Jason and Alex.
Well, speaking of that,
okay.
One of our sponsors, Higher Density Living,
yes,
is a podcast that we do that is all about this.
Yeah. So if you are interested in the evolution of yourself, spirit, and consciousness, it's worth giving it a listen. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Yes.
Of you and I talking.
Yes.
I can't believe we spent that much time talking.
Well, we get into what's really cool too is we get into a lot of New Mexico UFO incidents. So
cool.
McMillan, yeah, McMinnville.
Isn't McMinnville?
McMinnville, yeah. Mick.
Yeah, old McDonald.
And then we haven't hit Roswell yet. We'll be doing that here very soon.
Oh, I never even thought about doing the Roswell.
Yeah, and then we've done we did 24 episodes
White Sands.
On White Sands incident, which you would be shocked.
People are like, what's a White Sands incident?
Yeah.
You'd be surprised what there is to learn about the things occurring in New Mexico.
Yes, there was a doctor that was ahead.
Shit. I just spilled coffee, but Daniel W. Fry.
Yeah, Daniel, look this up. White Sands incident, Daniel W. Fry, and then listen to our 23 episodes.
You'll enjoy it.
It's in depth. Yeah, but it's all New Mexico. But Higher Density Living, you can go to higherdensityliving.com. You can go to Spotify, Apple, just type in Higher Density Living. You'll see our cartoon mugs on there.
Yes.
And then some aliens and whatever. We have one we're going to kind of get into a little bit today, kind of give you guys an example. We had, I think, a 2-part episode on creational leadership.
We did.
And what that looks like. And so it's kind of like bridging the science and the spiritual together and then us understanding it. And what I want to get into today, Alexander, is the different parts of your brain and understanding them and the way that you're in your evolution, the way that you're acting on your future. And then there's some parts of you that are keeping you from acting. And if you understand this, it creates more self-awareness.
Oh, so we got some upper limits preventing me from acting. So what is that, Jason, about the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex that would create these limitations for us?
Well, we know that our brain is in conflict. And
all the time.
And we want people to know you're not alone. Yeah. Every single one of us.
Who am I? Wait, I know who I am. Who am I?
Ego, consciousness, soul, spirit. What?
What am I supposed to think? Who am I? What? My brain is a division within itself.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So the PFC, the prefrontal cortex, is in the brain, is the seat of your ability to envision a compelling future for yourself.
Okay, so we're using our consciousness to create a visualization in our mind that forces us to make actions to work towards a specific outcome in the future.
Mm-hmm.
We're using our mind and our consciousness to conjure up a vision about what we want to do in the future, thus forcing us to take action towards that thing. We are conjuring up a vision to create probabilities through choice to drive us towards that end goal. Our brain, our system, our limbic system allows us to do that.
Yes. And the PFC is a part of the brain that enables us to, and this is a beautiful part, enables us to create. A bird creates a nest. It don't turn around and say, well, you know, if I waited till fall to build this, then the leaves will be orange and I can have a different shade of orange that will be added to, and it'd be so beautiful. Birds create the same nest over and over. There may be slight variants based off of weather and warmth and stuff.
They're more limbic. Like I would say a bird is, because they're very instinct driven. Whereas a human being can listen to the instinct in the central parts of our brain, but then use the prefrontal cortex to actually consciously make decisions about it, to ruminate, to actually work and mold and massage these thoughts or ideas before an action actually occurs.
Well, it's with entrepreneurship. You created Tartle as a thought.
That's where it all starts.
That's where it all starts. Yeah. We encourage people, Tartle.co, one of our other sponsors, but you created this data marketplace with a thought. So your prefrontal cortex was in creation mode.
Yes.
And then it gave a vision to what the future could be.
Right.
And then you acted upon that vision.
But we have to hold up a second. So as I'm thinking about it, having that thought, wanting to act towards it, the central part of my nervous system, the limbic area, is like fight or flight.
Yes.
Oh, there's all these risks. These are all the non-starters, right? All these other things that are telling me maybe we should fear this path.
Yes.
I have to use my prefrontal cortex to define a level of assurance in myself and my decision-making to override what hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years of genetics are telling me to just keep safe.
Yeah, and that limbic system wants you to keep the status quo.
Yeah.
Have limited amounts of risk.
Yeah, live, breathe, sit.
Yeah, it wants to avoid danger because it's used to, now we're not doing this, but our brains have evolved to still want to run from cheetahs on the plains.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's still there. That's why we get the fight or flight, but we get stressed out over little things like they didn't put enough soy milk into my latte at Starbucks, and so I'm pissed off for the whole morning, and I'm angry and fearful. And
happened to me the other day.
But I mean, those are the things that we have all. We're way up on the Maslow's hierarchy,
right?
So we have all those abilities.
But what we perceive as an actual thing that drives the cortisol and those other 5 neurochemicals to actually occur within the limbic system, prefrontal cortex, all that other jazz, we appropriate all that energy and hormonal action towards things that aren't necessarily beneficial to our evolution. And what you find is that you need to use your prefrontal cortex to actually check yourself and your thoughts. Use it as almost like the guard to reason. So that when you're saying, okay, what's my guard to reason here? If I'm thinking about creating a marketplace, being an entrepreneur, specifically here in the state of New Mexico, well, I had to make a conscious decision to be here. I could be somewhere else. Maybe it decreases the amount of risk because I'm in an area where there's high amount of funds coming in, right? A lot of people are doing this. There's a culture of it, but you make a conscious choice to go somewhere where there's really not that much going on.
Right.
So then you have to weigh, is this the right risk that has to be taken? Should I drive my energy, hormone, neurochemical thing towards the choice of making an event occur in an area, which I had to reason was the best choice for me? You feeling this? And now at the other time, but they're saying, my brain's like, though, that's a big risk. You're uprooting yourself out of safety.
Yes.
But within reason, I realized over time, is it really a risk? Not really. I'm just shifting where I am geographically and changing the narrative of who I speak with. But people we can perceive within our minds because we don't take the time to really think about it. We just assume everything's fight or flight mode. And it prevents us from actually taking a step. And you got to take that step. You have to take that perceived risk and really see if it's going to have a negative effect to you. Yeah,
and you can boil it down to one word, and that's change.
Yeah, it's change.
And I watch those. Have you ever seen those hoarder shows or whatever? Man, I've watched them a long time ago, but we've all seen that, and we're all like, some of you may have some of that tendency in you to hoard things, and it's like, why are you hoarding something? Why are people where they have this 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, they can barely walk through? Yeah. They had this one lady, she was sleeping on like a cot. And then all around her were just boxes and boxes, and she could just barely walk to the bathroom, and her house was unusable. Yeah. They had to come in there and bulldoze it down and all that. And that's a severe case, but that's you avoiding all risk, believing in scarcity, saying, I need to have all of this to keep me safe externally.
But it's not, though. You perceive your safety, you're actually attaching a line of illogical reasoning. And it's stupid to say illogical reasoning because reasoning says it wouldn't be illogical, but an illogical thought process towards something on the outside. You're essentially giving up sovereignty of your prefrontal cortex to these material objects that really don't give you anything.
Yeah, Carl Jung would call this insanity.
Yeah, this is a form of insanity here in itself. And so when I consider this, Jason, and we encourage people here in the area, take risks, think them through to the end. use that prefrontal cortex to work with your natural paleo-mammalian system, your limbic system in the center of your brain, right? And try to reason with what is telling you may be unreasonable and see if it has any weight to it.
Because I know there's someone listening right now. Our downloads have been going crazy. So I know there's somebody listening at this very moment and you're stuck in your old habits.
Yeah.
And you need change.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason you don't want to change, you need to change. And the only reason you don't want to change it, or maybe you're an entrepreneur, but you're stuck in a job and it's been safe. You have the health and you have the dental and the vision, and you hate getting up and going to work every morning. Absolutely hate it. You've been doing it for 20 years, but you have this amazing idea in the back of your head of something that you want to create.
Well, maybe it's good that you have that healthcare thing because you're going to end up killing yourself.
That's what's going to happen.
Over time, you're genetically destroying yourself. Your neuroplasticity will drop off. So what they find is that when you have consistent cortisol running through your body, it actually tightens your genetic strands. They lack flexibility, plasticity. So stress actually makes your body rigid and weak. What happens with an earthquake and you have a very rigid building?
Yes.
It's going to fall.
Yeah, they get so rigid, they'll begin to shrink over time.
That's precisely
so
correct.
Then that's where I think, and I'm not a medical doctor, but I've heard studies of this where like Alzheimer's and dementia and stuff like that come in. Like you can put somebody in such a routine. You take like Shawshank Redemption, that movie. When he got out of prison, he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's like I got
the guy
so
that goes
used
to the halfway house.
Yes, I got so used to my cell and this and going to dinner and lunch at this time and then going to the gym, and fight or flight all the time, worrying about my life, that I don't know how to experience freedom.
Yep. And that's true. And so with that, you live in a state of fear. So you disregard the reasoning of your prefrontal cortex and you actually live in this very animalistic state, which is not helping you evolve. The world needs you to evolve. You need yourself to evolve.
Yes.
And if you take the benefit of millions of years of evolutionary development and your human brain, which fundamentally makes you so special with your consciousness, you think about taking some risks.
Yes.
Think them all the way through and recognize what you're doing now and what you're attached to is actually limiting your growth.
And neuroplasticity, proven, the minute that you begin to act through your prefrontal cortex, the minute that you begin to act on your vision, the neurons begin to grow. And then your thought, this is crazy. They came up with this study. The prefrontal cortex, when you think something, you create neurons. Yeah. When you act on the vision, those neurons begin to grow.
It's really cool. So thought actually materializes something. There are electrical signals or impulses.
Right.
That creates this fluidum that comes through the brain in the function of a neuron. And that neuron has photon particles of light. And when you start to act upon it more, they coalesce. You're forcing more neurons into a certain area. And what they see is that the brain lights up. Holy shit. Light is growing in my brain as I think about using and doing things. So my thought itself, before anything happens on the outside, is already materializing. That's incredible. Recognize the power in your brain to go do great things, specifically here in the state of Albuquerque, who needs it a lot.
Yes.
We need the creativity. It needs the risk takers. It needs good, great, risk-taking human beings to do these things.
Yeah, and we talked about higher density living, and we have some shows that'll be coming out. They won't be out for a few weeks, but the 7 principles for the inspiring one, and we don't need to get where they come from and all that stuff. You can look, it's more of a spiritual thing. But these 7 principles are very logical. This will help you, give you a guideline on how to how to create and then nurture your prefrontal cortex and your vision.
Be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
For your life, not for a business. Be the entrepreneur. Be the risk taker in your life. Engineer your own future.
Yes.
Okay, that's where we need to get.
Yeah, I heard this is a great analogy the other day. I heard the guy that has the upper limit problem and stuff, Gay Hendricks is his name. I encourage people to buy the book. He talked about time, and this was really interesting, is with entrepreneurs and stuff.
Human construct.
And he goes, You're real busy, you're studying something, you're figuring something out, and your daughter walks in.
Yep.
And your 6-year-old daughter walks in and she says, Daddy, can we play Frisbee? This was in the book. And he goes, no, I'm busy. I'm busy, honey. You know, I'm figuring something out, maybe later. And then she comes in 30 minutes later and says, Daddy, I cut myself really bad. And you look down, there's this huge gash.
Right.
You immediately stop what you're doing.
Why?
Time becomes really important all of a sudden with your daughter.
Everything dilates and your focus goes towards this.
Yes.
When before it's just like I have to put my time somewhere else. My perception of time and how I spend my energy and my thoughts, or I have to go towards the other thing because there's really, I don't see any value in the time I have with the child at this moment.
Yes.
You are not, what you're doing is you're living in a system of scarcity. If you're not really valuing the interactions and the growth that happens, this new catalyst with the child coming in.
And that's what you were talking about being an entrepreneur with your life.
You have to
look at those relationships. How can I love more? How can I love more? How can I be more of service to others?
Right.
And I guarantee you that will put you on that successful, abundant scale more than anything will.
Right. And if we here as a local community, even the state of New Mexico, focuses on understanding one another, removing our own upper limits, saying, well, this is just how we've always done it.
Yes.
We are going to grow leaps and bounds. And it doesn't mean we'll erase our culture. We'll just refine it to be something exquisite, which is what we need.
Yes.
And I know everybody feels it when they're driving around the highway and they look at it and the change is slow.
Yes.
And it's not that change has to happen to make things better, but change is required for evolution.
Well, it's so simple. I mean, you're driving on the freeway. Some days the mountain inspires you. Some days you don't even take a you don't even look at it. And it does nothing to you.
You don't realize
the mountain's the same.
And guess what?
For millions and millions of years, it's been the same. It's your ability to look at it in your own free will and say, this is all inspiring. This is visionary to me. This is so beautiful.
Right. So how do you want to take these catalysts of your life? Here in Albuquerque, if you see a problem, think about it and let's act upon it. Let's work towards creating a bridge or a solution or helping those who need the help and bring resources where they need to be brought.
Yes.
Because that's going to elevate this area. It's going to elevate who we are, and it's going to elevate our culture above all the rest.
Yeah, and I want to end in this because I think this is really important. The other day I was, and I think I shared this with you. I was looking at like all my life, my emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, my work, my relationships, everything. And I was like, for 2022, I feel like I've laid a really good foundation. This is something real personal, but I feel like I've laid a really good foundation. Now it's time for me to build on it. And I always like to take, for the new year, I always like to take one word.
What's that?
So it's build. That's my word.
Oh.
But I was with my trainer yesterday, and he's spiritual and talks about the same stuff that we talk about. And I was sharing this with them, and he goes, "You're missing one thing." And I said, "What?" He goes, "What are you going to build for? What are you building on? Why are you building?"
What's the
and
purpose?
I was like, he goes, "It's service to others, right? That's what you're looking at through the lens of it, right? You've laid your foundation, physically, mentally, spiritually, you're there, are evolving, and you're feeling really good about yourself. Are you going to take all of that energy that you have and that abundance, and are you going to put it in service to others?" And I was like, I was just thinking about myself, service to self. I was building for myself.
So
I was like, now I got to shift
what you're doing,
the whole process to build for others. And what does that look like now? But you know what it did after? I was like, bing, 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 light bulb came on. And I was like, oh, this is way bigger.
It's huge
than just myself.
Right. My thought has been around adapting to others' needs.
Yes.
I'm pretty much taken care of.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm really doing fine, but a lot of people need help. So I need to adapt to all these scenarios and things that are going to come at us so that we can channel that, in a good way to those individuals who really do need it. We have to adapt to those changes in the system.
Yeah. And so because I want to get into this, if somebody wants to know a little bit more, we talked about high density living. Can you talk a little bit about TCAS and what that podcast is, and kind of, because we do 3 podcasts.
Yeah, we do.
So we talked about high density living, but I encourage people to subscribe to this one. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're into technology, can you talk a little bit about TCAS and then we'll close out?
Yeah. So the whole idea here is that technology nowadays has really lost its impact on human evolution. So TCAS focus on the adoption of technology to help evolve where we currently are by understanding using data to recognize the choices we are making.
Yes.
And we extrapolate upon that in many different metaphors, many different scenarios, speaking to many different experts to really understand how we can elevate ourselves and the world as a whole, working towards these goals to use human understanding and sharing of truth to elevate our processes and put resources where they have to go.
So if you're interested in blockchain, if you're interested in Austrian economics, if you're interested in NFTs and cryptocurrency and data, in, technology,
climate stability,
yes,
learning from world-renowned thinkers, anything like that, you're going to find that on TCast. And the point is to drive data and share it to those who need to hear it.
Yeah, so it's TCast by Tartle, Tartle. And if somebody wants to sign up for Tartle, maybe there's a business here in New Mexico. What do we have going for them right now for businesses specifically in New Mexico at tartle.co?
Yeah, so we're running a special discount in the fact that we are giving you 5,000 free data packets for you to use for your own business intelligence and analytics to make decisions. Survey the local population here. Make sure that you're making the right choices and establish relationships with the local community. So if you sign up at tartle.co and you email mh@tartle.co, we will hook you up as a local business here and essentially credit your account with 5,000 data packets for you to go out and then acquire that data from other real human beings so that you can make great evolutionary choices here in the state of Mexico.
And if you have an API, we have that available. We have all that information on the website.
Right.
You can also ask mh@tartle.co if you have special needs with what type of data that you want. If this is Sandia Labs, and you want to have a conversation with us, we'd love to have a conversation with you. If you're a small retailer in Albuquerque, Kirky, and you want to know, and you want to know more about, maybe you have, 20,000 emails and you want to know more about your user base, we'd love to be able to help you with that. There's so many ways. You don't even realize the ways that you can not just speak to your customers, but speak to your local community.
Yeah.
And gain so much insight and information. And you'll be shocked.
And respect from them at the same time.
Yes.
Because you're really establishing those relationships, and we can help you do that. So you can go to tartle.co and you can reach out to mh@tartle.co to learn more.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to ABQPodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.